Well, good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson, excited to be with you and bring you this report. It's a big one, okay? I've got two things in this report. Please stick with me through this. I've got to notify people about somebody running for office in Minnesota and what he is. And this is also going to apply to your states as you're vetting candidates because we need you involved. Remember, in those BPOU caucuses, those precinct caucuses, you got to get involved in the endorsement process or we're going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime. Okay. Then also, there's a massive story out of Just the News that I've got to share with you. So just hold with me through this. I do want to thank my sponsor, MyPillow, MyPillow.com. Promo code Lumberjack will save you up to 66%. Remember, they've got the biggest sales they've ever had on the slippers and the mattress toppers right now. I love the sheets, the towels. I love it all. Anyways, it's a big report. I'm going to start with the report out of Just the News. A Minnesota school charges $901,000. Folks, that's almost $1 million for CRT records. A Minnesota school district billed a group $900,000 to fulfill public records request about CRT in its curriculum. So these people FOIA them and then they want to charge them $900,000? It gets better. Listen to this. A law firm representing parent group equality in education filed a records request with Rochester Public Schools in southern Minnesota to disclose materials mentioning CRT, the Daily Caller reported. Now, if you don't know anything about Minnesota politics, basically what determines the outcome in Minnesota is the Twin Cities, Rochester, Duluth, okay? St. Cloud is kind of reliably conservative, but the biggest population base out of the metro. And Rochester, it's all Mayo Clinic. It's just weirdo stuff. Anyways, Wen Yuan Wu tweeted, "Serious ask. Is it normal for Minnesota school districts to ask $901,000 for a public records request on its CRT, DEI, and SEL practices? Ask yourself, does that make any sense?" Wu tweeted the district's response letter from a law firm responding to the 41-page data request. The district estimated the request would require 13,478 hours of work billed at the lowest employee wage rate, and that would total $901,121. That equals 561 days, more than a year of work. Something's not right there, folks. Hey, if you're down in Rochester, reach out to your school district and cry foul. Okay, they need to hear it. This is why school board races are so important and getting good people in the positions of principals and whatnot. And you as parents need to get involved in a way. I mean, we homeschool, so we don't have this issue. Okay, I would recommend it. But anyhow, I'm just saying you've got to get involved there in the schools, okay? Now, despite being more than 40 years old, CRT has evolved to a flashpoint between political parties over the last year, of course. And if you missed my last video on Waukesha, check that out and see some of the CRT garbage that this one lady is teaching in there. It's nuts, okay? So, CRT is one of many issues that have increased parent participation in school board meetings and curriculum since 2020. Now, although this next one is applying strictly to Minnesota, it's going to apply to all of you, and you'll see why. Well, let me just explain briefly. We have a governor's race coming up with a governor that is middling in the polling right now, and we have a lot of hurdles to overcome here in Minnesota. Years ago, I lived in the Twin Cities, and I went to cast my ballot in person, and I saw them actually busing people from the projects, giving them goodies to vote, okay? I kid you not, this really happened. So at that time, I didn't fully know what to do, not that they would have done anything anyways, but the bottom line is that's what we're up against here in Minnesota. So we need some massive turnout and then some changes in laws. We are not going to get that with Rhino. We need rhinos, and neither are you. So that is why we need to get involved in our precinct caucuses and make sure we're involved in that nominating process, because in Minnesota, we have a couple pretty solid candidates. We've got this joker. So Rocks and Cows of Minnesota shared this, and they're doing great work, okay? And if you don't know what that refers to, Governor Walz was talking about outstate Minnesota, and he said, well, that's just rocks and cows anyways. In other words, he really doesn't care about outstate Minnesota, all right? So, from rocks and cows, reminder, a Democrat is running for MN-GOP governor endorsement. Senator Paul Gazelka gave the Minneapolis Kooks 2 rounds of police reform, gave Jan Malcolm and Keith Ellison a raise, let stand a state worker raise while you were laid off, passed more green energy rules that utilities will charge you for, raised government spending by $4 billion. It was the biggest sham. He is the Senate Majority Leader. They actually have a majority in the Senate, and he caved to Walz on everything. Okay? He couldn't even bring himself to have a gun rights self-protection vote while Minneapolis was on fire. And this is all Minnesota politics, people, but, you know, yeah, he could not do a gun rights self-protection while the city was burning. And it's just nuts. To top it off, he brags the DFL lapdogs on the range that are selling out rocks and cows steelworkers will endorse him. So now he's saying, oh, yes, I can get these DFLers to endorse me. That's his plan, okay? We don't need a rhino right now. We need somebody good. I've interviewed Scott Jensen. I think he's fine. I know a lot of people have issues. They say, well, he's gun control. I've drilled him on that, okay? I met him actually to do an interview. I guess where we ended up meeting. He's a member of a gun club, so I don't know. Anyways, nowhere in the qualifications for governor is the term nice guy used or Metro Chamber of Commerce endorsement required. Special note, Rocks and Cow has now heard multiple times from rural Q&A session attendees. Paul answered the question. Here's the question. What do you propose to do in response to the poker job mandate? And you know what his response is? Just get the poke. There is a reason the emergency lasted 17 months and Jan Malcolm still has a job. He was helping King Walz save us. To be fair, we feel obligated to list all of Paul's conservative session achievements, other than stopping an imaginary tax hike. And the entire list is as follows. The silence is indicating that it's blank, people. If you are in Minnesota, I had somebody reach out to me on Gab too through message asking me about Gazelka. Just run. Run as fast as you can. Do not let him get an endorsement, okay? We cannot have this guy. He's an absolute train wreck for conservatism. Please get out, get involved in your precinct caucus in whatever state you're in. Find out about these people. But in Minnesota, get out and caucus against Paul Gazelka. Find somebody else, okay? There are some other good candidates running, okay? I mentioned Jensen. There's a mayor on the north side of the city. I can't remember his name right now, but I've heard him and he sounds good. Of course, but a lot of people can sound good. We've got to find out if they will be good. So make sure you're vetting them. Make sure you're talking to him directly. But Gazelka's a snake in the grass, and he's reaching out to the precinct committeeman because he wants to get the endorsement. Don't let it happen, all right? I love y'all. Peace out.